Good morning, everyone. Welcome to BAJIRAO IAS Academy. In this lecture, in this session, we will discuss most relevant and most important news articles given in the Hindu newspaper. The first news article is top-notch toilets to usher in change. So, this is part of the Swachh Bharat Mission Urban 2.0. Right, so the center has started the aspirational toilets program. The aspirational toilets program in September 2022. So this program is part of Swachh Bharat Mission 2.0. So the total aim of the aspirational toilet scheme is to help make cities open defecation free. So as part of the aspirational toilet scheme, let's discuss what are the facilities will be created or generated in these aspirational toilets scheme, right? So this scheme says that a quarter of 25 percentage of all new public restrooms in Indian cities will have a high end features. So they will have high end features. Okay. So uh, as part of the high end features, and that includes a luxurious bath cubicles, touchless flushing, breastfeeding rooms, and automatic sanitary napkin incinerators. So, all these facilities are provided in the aspirational toilets scheme, right? So, however, in Google Maps, these toilets are indicated as aspirational toilets, and these toilets will be developed in every city, right? So, the directive has been given by the center to various state governments to set up at least or to earmark at least 25 percentage of toilets in cities will have these facilities. The public toilets will have all the facilities above discussed. However, the high-end public convenience may also have attached libraries, caves, shopping complexes. These are to help raise funds for the maintenance of and upkeep. Once the toilets and other facilities are provided in cities, they need funds. They need to be supported with uh, funds. So therefore, these aspirational toilets will also have facilities like attached libraries, caves, shopping complexes. So this will help raise funds for the maintenance and upkeep. Okay. However, the focus areas for construction of these luxurious restrooms will be tourist spots and also religious destinations. In India, there are several places which are traditionally known as tourist hubs, tourist spots, and the focus of the aspirational toilet scheme is cities which are known for tourism and religious destinations, and these cities are also known as iconic cities. However, so these places are these are the cities with high footfall, and they also have several other facilities like markets, railway stations, interstate bus depots, national highways, etc. Right? So the center has been planning to explore this as a business model, right? So explore this as a business model. So as part of the aspirational toilets program, the center has been encouraging startups to take up these activities in various cities, right? So the Ministry of Urban Affairs has decided to engage new startups that can build such toilets across the country. So new startups can build such toilets and facilities in these cities, right? So this will be a business model. So with this way, startups will also be encouraged and will also be promoted in urban areas. However, there's a concern. The concern is that before beginning any such project, a proper study has to be done on the location, way they will be maintained. For example, the constant flow of funds required for such projects. Okay, if there is no support of funding, then the projects would result in a failure. So therefore, a proper study need to be conducted in different cities and first explore the potential of the cities, the relative potential of the cities before planning any such program, so that the program will be more and more success. However, the center has allocated 1,41,600 crore rupees for Swachh Bharat Mission 2.0. So this is the second phase of Swachh Bharat Mission. This is Swachh Bharat Mission 2.0. So which is around 2.5 times more than the money allocated to the first phase of the mission that was launched in 2014. So the first phase of this mission was launched, Swachh Bharat mission was launched in the year 2014, and for the second phase of the mission, the center has allocated 1,41,600 rupees. So this is around 2.5 times increase in to previous allocations. So let's see what is this Swachh Bharat mission urban. So see, a Swachh Bharat mission has two components. One is the rural component and the other is urban component. Okay, now this is the aspirational toilets program is part of Swachh Bharat Mission Urban. Okay, the cabinet approves constitution of Swachh Bharat Mission Urban from 2025. So Swachh Bharat Mission 2.0 will be implemented up to 2025-26 for sustainable outcomes. Okay, so remember, sustainable development goals also talk about sanitation, safe drinking water, and sanitation. Okay, so this Swachh Bharat mission will fulfill sustainable development goal number 6. So financial outlay, we already discussed the total financial outlay of the scheme is 1,41,600 crore for SBM 2.0. It is 2.5 times more than the first phase of the mission. What are the targets of this mission? The target is to complete elimination of open defecation. That include fecal sludge management in all cities with less than 1 lakh population, right? So in less than 1 lakh population, these are the set targets of this Swachh Bharat Mission Urban. So all cities achieve at least 3-star garbage free certification. This is also one target of the Swachh Bharat Mission Urban. Okay, so what are the benefits of this mission? We are talking about Swachh Bharat mission, not the aspirational toilets program. So the benefits of Swachh Bharat mission urban include eradicate hazardous entry into sewers and septic tanks, right? See, the entry of hazardous waste into sewers and septic from the sewers and septic tanks will result in several health problems for people, and also they contaminate the underground water resources, contamination of underground water resources, and they also pollute rivers. So pollution of rivers in urban areas is a most challenging and pressing problem. So therefore, one such benefit of Swachh Bharat Mission Urban is eradication of hazardous entry into sewers and public tanks. The second benefit is no untreated wastewater to pollute water bodies. So if untreated municipal solid waste is released into rivers, uh, so this municipal untreated solid waste, untreated liquid waste would of course pollute the rivers. So several stretches of rivers, according to the National Pollution Control Board, several stretches of rivers across the country have been facing a serious pollution related problems. So therefore, no untreated wastewater to pollute water bodies. And the fourth target is achievement of the vision of garbage free urban India. So there should be no garbage, no landfills, and solid waste generated will be managed more sustainably. So more sustainable utilization of solid waste in line with in line with uh, the cyclical economy. So in line with the you know in recent times there has been a growing emphasis on recycling and reuse of products. Okay, so recycling will be given a more and more priority under this. So this is the first article. So the next article is regarding Andhra Pradesh. See, recently Andhra Pradesh government imposed a ban on fishing. So this ban is uh, came into force from today. So why the government has been imposed fishing ban? The reason for imposing fishing ban is to protect the fish. Especially the fish ban is imposed for 61 days. The fish ban is imposed 61 days, that is 2 months. The and April and May generally considered as a breeding season of fish. Okay, so these 2 months are considered as a breeding season of fish. If mechanized boats are allowed into, they are allowed into venture into sea for catching fish. Okay, so if they are allowed into sea for catching fish, that will disturb that will disturb the breeding that will disturb the breeding of fish. So if a breeding of fish is disturbed, then there will not be any sustainable fish catch for fishermen even after the ban is lifted. So therefore, in order to increase the fish population in the Bay of Bengal, Andhra Pradesh coast, the government every year imposes 2 years, 2 months of ban, the fishing ban. So let's first try and understand what is fishing ban. So the ban on fishing was part of conservation measures during the breeding season. So we already discussed April and May are generally considered as breeding season of fish. So this is just applicable for Andhra Pradesh, but along with Andhra Pradesh, states like Tamil Nadu also have a provisions regarding the fishing ban, right? So the measures during the breeding season of prawn and fish species. So all fishermen should observe the ban strictly in order to have a good catches. So if fishermen follow the ban, they will have a good catch after the post ban. So and that will lead to and that also helps in sustain fishery wealth for future, right? So if a breeding season is not disturbed, then that would help flourish the fish population in the region, right? So if there is a high fish catch, the fishermen will not migrate or will not venture into the seas of other countries. For example, when it comes to Tamil Nadu, there has been a fisherman issue between Tamil Nadu and Sri Lanka. So what happening is due to inadequate fish catch in the waters near to Tamil Nadu. So very often fishermen venturing into Tamil Nadu coast. Okay, so once they venture into Tamil Nadu coast for fishing, the the Sri Lankan coast for fishing, Sri Lankan Navy arrest them. So several prisoners still languishing in the jails of Sri Lanka. So therefore, in order to protect the fish stock in their respective waters, these states generally impose fishing ban. Okay, so they generally impose fishing ban. So let's discuss this news article in a little detail way. So as of now, as many as 23,000. So total 23,000 mechanized and motorized boats will not go for fishing in the territorial waters. We all know, but the territorial waters up to 12 nautical miles, as defined and demarcated by United Nations Conference on Law of Seas. Okay, so this was came into force in 1982. So in the territorial waters, as many as 23,000 mechanized and motorized boats will not go for fishing in the territorial waters. Okay, so the Andhra Pradesh government has announced the ban in the deep sea fishing for 61 days. The ban is for 61 days. So after the 61 days, the fisherman can venture into sea for fishing. So this has been uh, issued as per the AP Marine Fishing Regulation Act 1994. So therefore, the ban has a statutory sanction. The ban has a statutory sanction. And the government of Andhra Pradesh will implement this ban with the help of Coastal Security Police, Revenue Department, Coast Guard, and Navy. So, Coast Guard and Navy will help patrol the sea and implement the ban. However, the objective of such a ban on fishing is to observe the conservation measures during the breeding season. We already discussed this is a breeding season in order to protect the marine species and not to disturb the the breeding season. The ban is generally imposed, and any fisherman or boat owner who violates the order will face the penalty and vessel will be seized. So however, the bigger question here is that what about the livelihoods of fishermen if they are not allowed to venture into sea? What I mean, how they will sustain or survive themselves? However, the Andhra Pradesh government have a scheme. The scheme provides 10,000 rupees of financial assistance per month to each fisherman. So therefore, this will help fishermen sustain themselves in these 2 months. Okay, so in Andhra Pradesh, there are around 8.5 lakh families and they depend on fishing, right? So the government will extend financial aid of 10,000 each to about 1.5 lakh fishermen during the ban period, so that the fishermen will not migrate or fishermen will not face any problem during the fishing ban period. So this is all about the fishing ban which is in the state of Andhra Pradesh. So the next news article is Kerala celebrates Vishu with traditional jeep. See, festivals like Vishu and Bihu, which we yesterday discussed, are important for the prelims exam point of view. In prelims exam, UPSC generally asks these questions and these festivals and states in which they are celebrated. So Vishu is a traditional festival which is celebrated in the state of Kerala, right? So Vishu festival is celebrated in the state of Kerala, right? So this is a traditional festival and it represents the family togetherness, bursting of crackers, and sumptuous feasts marked by the holiday that heralded in the arrival of spring harvest season. See, in India, most of the festivals are associated with harvest seasons. In the same way, Vishu is also associated with the harvest season. So normally during Vishu, what Keralites, the people of Kerala do, they generally have a Vishu Khani. So all the setup you can see here. This is the setup. Uh, this is a Vishu Khani. Okay, this is all set up together called as Vishu Khani. So a Vishu Khani consists of a Vishu Kani consists of a small cauldron of bell metal. So see, you can see here a small cauldron of bell metal, and so brimming over with a golden hood kani konna. These flowers, a golden colored kani konna. These flowers are called as kani konna. Uh, and fruits, paddy stacks, vegetables, ornaments. So they decorate everything. Uh, uh, the Vishu Kani with all these items, the silver, silk, mirror, and images. So during Vishu, what happens that they prepare a Vishu Kanni. Okay, they prepare a Vishu Kanni. So the celebration of the festival marks or begin with viewing the Vishu Kanni. See, the people who celebrate this festival, they just see Vishu Kanni and then start observe the festival. Okay. So just remember, the festival Vishu is celebrated in the state of Kerala, and it marks with the big. It begins with the viewing of Vishu Kanni, and Vishu Kanni consists of Kani Konna, right? So Kani Konna is a golden flower along with the idol of Lord Krishna. So this is all about Vishu. So apart from this, the next news article is Chinese dual use facilities in Myanmar, Sri Lanka raise security concerns for India. See, before actually discussing this article, let's try and understand the context of this news article. So, the context is that recently the Chinese Navy has been building a base like structure in Coco Islands. So, you can see here Coco Islands here. So a base-like structure in Coco Islands. They are very close to India because the integrated test range in Odisha, where majority of the missiles are fired, and also the rocket launching station in Sriharikota in Andhra Pradesh. So see, Coco Islands are very close to India and these two missile launching and space launching stations. So therefore, China will increase its surveillance on majority of India's activities in the Bay of Bengal region and also its missile and space program. So therefore, it is a concern. And Coco Islands generally belongs to Myanmar. This is Myanmar. Coco Islands generally belongs to Myanmar, and Coco Islands are north of Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Okay, so they are generally north of Andaman and Nicobar Islands. So, along with building a military base in Coco Islands, what China has been doing, China has also building a satellite ground station in Sri Lanka. So that will also increase surveillance on India's space and defense and its presence in the Indian Ocean region. So therefore, it is a particularly concern for India. However, Chinese activities China's activities around India's neighborhood, guided by the Chinese policy of string of perils, where China plan to encircle India. So this is the Gwadar port and the Hambantota port, where Sri Lankan government has given the Hambantota port for 99 years to China. Okay, this is Hambantota port, Gwadar port, and this is Maldives, presence of China in Maldives, and also the Coco Islands in Myanmar. So this is how China has been trying to encircle India. And the recent developments in Coco Islands and Hambantota port of Sri Lanka are also part of encircling India. So this policy is known as string of perils, and it is a geopolitical theory on potential Chinese intention in the Indian Ocean. Okay. So, however, it says that Sri Lanka recently handed over a loss-making, strategically important Hambantota port to Chinese for 99 years of lease. So, therefore, increasing Chinese presence and Chinese activities around India's neighborhood or around India is particularly a concern for India. In the same way, Chinese dual-use facilities in Myanmar and Sri Lanka raise security concerns for India. So, we have seen the location of Coco Islands and also seen the Hambantota port. So, what is a dual use infrastructure? So, what is a dual use infrastructure? Dual use infrastructure is infrastructure that can be used both for civilian and military purposes, right? So, for example, at LAC, China has been building the dual use infrastructure. So, that can be used by both civilians and military. In the same way, in Coco Islands and in Sri Lanka also, China has been building the dual use facilities. So let's look into the article and discuss it. So the construction of military facility on Coco Islands in Myanmar and a proposed remote satellite receiving ground station, a satellite receiving ground station in Sri Lanka. So both coming up with Chinese help in Coco Islands and Sri Lanka. So both are coming up with Chinese help. So this will possibly have concerns for India because this will increase the surveillance across the region. So both in Coco Islands and Sri Lanka will increase surveillance across the region, right? However, the recent satellite images have shown that the construction of a military facility in Coco Islands. We have seen the location of Coco Islands, and satellite images shown that a construction of a military facility in Coco Islands. So since in Myanmar there has been a military regime, so there has been a military regime, and in fact China has also been uh, providing a tacit support, providing a tacit support to the military regime. So therefore, China has got the permission to construct a military facility on Coco Islands. So they are located very close to Andaman and Nicobar Island chain. However, the China proposed setting up of a remote station, satellite receiving ground station in Sri Lanka. So this is a collaborative effort of Sri Lanka and China. However, the critical location, given its critical location, it can be used on spying. So it can be used on spying on Indian assets in the region, and they can also intercept sensitive information and also across the region. So they can have access to sensitive information or intercept the sensitive information, and also spy or increase the spying activities across the region. These are India's concerns. So a complete military base being built up entirely by the Chinese in the Coco Islands of Myanmar. So it is being observed that a complete military base is being built up by Chinese in the Coco Islands. So there was a random dome-shaped structure to protect radars spotted in the island. So recently, the satellite images have shown that there was dome-shaped, a random dome-shaped structure that is to protect radars spotted in the island, the Coco Islands. Okay. However, the facility can always be used by Chinese military whenever required. There has been a growing geopolitical competition between India and China. So therefore, China is also trying to encircle India, and India also have a lot of concerns regarding China. So therefore, whenever required, Chinese may use uh, the Coco Islands and Sri Lankan satellite ground facility for its military purposes. So the satellite tracking facilities are inherently a dual use in nature. The satellite tracking facilities which are being set up in Sri Lanka will have a dual use facilities, both civilian and military purposes as well. China has been expanding the ground stations in the region, entire Indian Ocean region, so across different countries because of Chinese economic might and military might. China has been giving loans to different countries. Its policy of debt trap diplomacy that led to majority of the countries go under the Chinese influence. So therefore, China has been increasing the ground stations in the region. So that could potentially be used to intercept sensitive information about Indian assets. However, Indian satellite launch facilities in Sriharikota. So we already discussed India had a satellite launch facility in Sriharikota and integrated missile test range in Odisha. From this island, most of our missiles being tested, including Agni 5. So it could come under the scanner of ground station. So launches from there could be tracked and obtain sensitive information. Um, in case launches from both the integrated test range, the Abdul Kalam Island, or the space station could be effectively tracked to obtain this sensitive information and data. So, recent instances of Chinese research and survey vessel docking in Hambantota. So, India also strongly objected China docking its research and survey vessel in Hambantota port because India have the security concerns. So, therefore, in recent times, China has been deploying more and more such vessels into the Indian Ocean. Right, this is all about this article. So the next news article is the constitution bench is being set up to decide the same-sex marriages. Earlier lectures also we discussed what is a same-sex marriage. A same-sex marriage is a marriage between two same biological male or biological female, right? So a biological male or female, two biological male or two biological females, right? However, India does not recognize the same-sex marriages, or not legalized the same-sex marriages. So they have certain disadvantages. Why they are particularly demanding the legalization of same-sex marriage? Because of these reasons. So the marital rights of same-sex couple do not enjoy in India. One is government pensions and medical benefits. They will not get the government pensions and medical benefits of their spouses, and also they cannot claim the leave travel allowances of the partner. See, one of the individual is in government services, and they have a same-sex marriage. So the spouse of a person cannot enjoy or cannot claim leave travel allowance for partner, and right to property or inheritance, and they can also uh, don't have a joint adoption. In case of a separation, there is no provision to seek maintenance by economically weaker partners, and right to take emergency medical decisions. In case of a medical emergency, they can also not able to take the medical decisions, for example giving any permission, so they are not eligible. So because of all uh, factors, they have been demanding legalization of same-sex marriages. Okay, legalization of same-sex marriages. The Supreme Court constituted a constitution bench to decide on the same-sex marriage. So the petition is filed in Supreme Court about the legalization of same-sex marriages. So therefore, the constitution bench consists of five judges. Okay, so five or more judges constitute uh, a constitution bench. So the constitution bench will decide the matters which have a significant interpretation of law or constitutional provisions. Okay, so this is about the same-sex marriage. And the next important news, Omicron variants evolve strategies to evade T cell immunity. So this is very important news article. So let's before discussing this news article, let's look into what is a T cell. First, understand what is a T cell. Actually, T cell recognizes antigen substances that prompt an immune response. We know that body have the immune response, right? So body have the immune response. So in immune response, two types of cells, B cells and T cells, play a very important role, right? So T cells recognize the antigen. So T cells recognize an antigen. Okay, so once T cells recognize antigen, B cells trigger immune response. Okay, so in this case, T cells recognizes substances that prompt immune response. In bacteria and viruses, there are antigens. Okay, so they are also known as antigens. So each cell infected with the bacteria and virus have a specific antigens. Okay, now these antigens are recognized by T cells. Okay, and the body has encountered before. So body already encountered these diseases or these infections before, and they have the memory, immunological memory. Okay, however, unlike the B cell, T cell do not make antibodies. Here, B cell make antibodies, right? The antigen specific antibodies. However, T cells does not make antibodies or proteins as well. However, T cells help B cells make antibodies and others directly kill the infected cell. We already discussed T cells help recognize antigens present in the infected virus or bacteria cell. So therefore, it helps B cells make antibodies and others directly kill an infected cell. Okay, so T cells help in prevent immune response from attacking normal host cells. In some instances, what happens that the T cells, the body have immune response, and sometimes immune response attacks own body cells, own body cells. So that results in uh, other diseases, among human beings or health related problems. So therefore, in several cases, what happens, T cells help uh, immune response system not to attack our own body cells. Okay, so these are about the T cells. So we have discussed about T cells. Now discuss this news article. It says that Omicron variants evolve strategies to evade T cell immunity. So SARS-CoV-2 developed several variants. So, right, so it developed several variants over a period of time, right from its infection. So one of the variant is Omicron variant. Okay, so right, one of the variant is Omicron variant. This is a very fatal variant. It leads to very high levels of mortality among the infected individuals. So this entire news article is very well summed up here. But before actually discussing this, let's understand what is the Omicron variant, how Omicron variant has been evolved or developed strategies to evade T cell immunity. Okay. However, uh, we know that viruses attack human beings. Okay. So much like many other viruses that have developed strategies to evade T cell mediated clearance. See, viruses in fact uh, infect human cells. Okay, so viruses infect human cells. So once they infect human cells, T cells produce T cells identify the virus. So therefore, they can trigger immune response. However, in order to evade T cells, several viruses develops immunity. They develop different strategies. In the same way, SARS-CoV-2 virus has also developed such a strategy to evade T cell immunity. If it develops T cell immunity, what happens? If it develops T cell immunity, then the existing medication would be ineffective against the SARS-CoV-2 or the Omicron virus. Okay, so in fact, neutralizing antibodies are responsible for preventing infection. So once antibodies are released to neutralize the infection, so that ultimately prevent the spread of infection to other body cells. Okay. However, the T cells play a huge role in reducing the viral load. T cells play a huge role in reducing the viral load in body cells, and they also play a key role in clearing the infection by detecting killing infected cells. They detect the cells and they also kill the cells, the viral or bacteria cells. The T cells cannot prevent the infection, however, they can reduce the load. One is T cells can reduce the load, and T cells can also kill viruses, but they cannot ultimately prevent the disease. Okay, so they cannot ultimately prevent the disease. A study conducted by National Academy of Sciences, proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences revealed that the SARS-CoV-2 virus codes multiple viral factors that modulate major histocompatibility complex expression. So before actually discussing this, first understand what is major histocompatibility complex 1, right? So the major histocompatibility complex is, it is a group of antigens first identified in graft patients. Okay, so it is important in determining the compatibility of tissues and successful grafting. Major histocompatibility complex antigens are glycoproteins found in the membranes of most of the cells of vertebrate animals. There are vertebrates and invertebrates. Human beings are vertebrates. Function to hold position, antigen determines the presentation of T cells. So now I'll explain you clearly what is a major histocompatibility complex. See, every cell which is infected, every cell which is infected with a virus have antigen. Okay, so the cell have antigen over its surface, cell surface, okay, over a cell surface. Now the antigen is present in the cell surface because of the major histocompatibility complex, right? So the antigen is attached to the major histocompatibility complex in the cell surface, okay. So once the antigen is attached to the major histocompatibility complex phase 1, these antigens can be easily recognized by T cells. So they can easily recognize the antigens. Once they recognize antigens, they kill these cells or these viruses. However, the Omicron variants, what they are doing is they are inhibiting the expression of major histocompatibility complex 1. So once they inhibit the major histocompatibility complex, what happens is that the antigen on a viral cell is not detected by T cells. So they are not detected by T cells. When they are not detected by the T cells, the T cells cannot kill the existing virus. They cannot kill the existing virus or virus infected cells. So thereby the immune response becoming ineffective to such strategies being developed by viruses. So when the major histocompatibility complex is suppressed on the surface of a virus, then that leads to the virus sustaining itself, the virus sustaining itself in human body, and that will also spread to other cells within human body, thereby making the overall immune response ineffective, and high mortality high mortality among individuals, right? So this is all the article has been talking about. So now we will look in a brief manner what this article says. Omicron variants can survive better in human host, right? Uh, in the case of SARS-CoV-2, human being is a host. Host is a medium through which a virus can spread from one person to another person. Okay, one person to other person. So in this case, it says that the ancestral strain is the old virus, that is Wuhan virus. So the old virus already equipped to escape from T cell mediated immunity. The old cell already developed strategies to evade from T cell mediated immunity by reducing the major histocompatibility 1 expression by the infected cells. We discussed what is major histocompatibility complex 1 and its expression. So thereby, by reducing the major histocompatibility expression by the infected cells, they can escape from the T cell mediated immunity. Okay. However, neutralizing antibodies help prevent infection. So if antibodies are generated against a particular virus to kill antigens, then that will help prevent the disease. The T cells reduce the overall viral load and also clear the infection by detecting or killing infected cells. However, when a virus infects a living cell, a human cell, the immune system attaches. Every individual have their own immune system. So once a virus attacks a cell, the immune system attaches virus. The immune system attaches antigen to MHC molecules. So MHC1 molecules are present in every cell. So the immune system attaches an antigen to the MH1 molecules. thereby presenting the antigen on the outside of the infected cell. So when an antigen is present on the outside of an infected cell, that will help the T cells, that will help T cells to identify and then kill the viral cells. Okay, but what generally happening is the viruses, one of the common tricks the viruses use to avoid killing is T cells. If T cells recognize the antigens, then they kill those viruses. However, these viruses have been developing few tricks, right? So those tricks helps viruses to avoid killing. What they are doing, they are just inhibiting or limiting the major histocompatibility complex 1 expression. Presentation of SARS-CoV-2 is no exception. SARS-CoV-2 also develops the same mechanism of inhibiting major histocompatibility complex. So thereby they have been avoiding killing by T cells. Okay, they are avoiding killing by T cells. So the ancestral strain and few other SARS-CoV-2 variants had the ability to escape from T cells mediated immunity by inhibiting or reducing the major histocompatibility complex. However, some of the Omicron subvariants have greater capacity to suppress. There are different variants within the SARS-CoV-2. So some variants are have the greater capacity to suppress MH1 levels on the other compared to the ancestral strain and other variants. However, immune evasion from T cells could allow viruses to survive better in the infected cells. If immune system does not function well, if immune system does not function well, then T cells may not be able to identify the virus. So when they are not able to identify the virus, that will allow the virus to survive better in the infected cells. Okay, so the extent, the reduction in the or the suppression of major histocompatibility complex expression impairs the recognition of infected cells by T cells. This we already discussed. However, the consequences of enhanced major histocompatibility complex 1 inhibition by Omicron variants disease is unknown. What will be the consequences if there is a major histocompatibility complex 1 inhibition limitation on viral cells? So those consequences have not adequately understood or studied. Okay, this is all about the Omicron variants evolving new strategies, new tricks to avoid T cell immunity. So that provides them the time to survive more in human cells. Okay, so the next, Raki and critical drugs imports east. So new foreign trade policy allows the duty-free import of life-saving drugs and Raki as gifts. There are a few rare diseases. Okay, so in the case of rare diseases, the cost of medicine, the cost of medicine is very high. Okay, the cost of medicine is very high. Since the cost of medicine is very high, imposing the customs duty will make these the prices of these medicine more expensive. So therefore the new foreign trade policy envisioned that there will be no customs duty on critical drug imports along with rakis. So on raki imports also there will be no duties, no customs duties. However, it says that gifts related to Raki, other than the Raki, but gifts related to Raki will attract levies. Okay, so this says that Rakis and life-saving drugs as gifts from relatives or friends abroad under the new foreign trade policy. So critical drugs and Rakis from relatives abroad are now out of the ambit of customs duties, even though it has tightened the provisions of other gifts related to Rakis from overseas, including those purchased from global e-commerce portals. Okay, so if anything purchased from global e-commerce portals, they will be under the customs duty. Okay, the customs duty will be imposed on them. However, The 2015-20 trade policy, import of gifts was free in case of goods that otherwise freely importable under India's foreign trade classification norms. Okay, so this says that as per the 2015-20 foreign trade policy, several gifts, uh, the import of gifts was free in case of goods that otherwise freely importable. If a particular person has been importing gifts from foreign countries, so they can be freely imported. They can be freely imported. No customs duty is levied. Under the new foreign trade policy, this new foreign policy is effective from this month. The import of goods, including those purchased from e-commerce portals, through couriers or post, where customs clearance is sought as gifts. For example, in the custom clearance, they may be recognized or identified as gifts, and they are now they will be under the customs duty. So they will be under the ambit of the customs duty. However, the life-saving drugs, medicines, Raki, will be out of the ambit of customs duty. Earlier, there has been a widespread misuse of gift category. So how this category was misused? Several individuals used to import expensive uh, products from abroad, and they categorized them as gifts. Since gifts are free from the customs duty, so it this provision was widely misused. In the past, gifts were being misused in few instances to import goods without any duty payment. So the goods were imported under the category of gifts without any duty payment, and this was resulting in leakages and lower customs duty collection. Okay, gifts from abroad. So we already discussed this, and they just summarized what we have discussed. Okay, so this is all about the new foreign trade policy 2023, providing exemption to Rakis and critical drugs from customs duties. Okay, so the next news article is the free trade agreements. Upcoming free trade agreements will boost India's exports. Okay, so first understand what is a free trade agreement. Okay, so what is a free trade agreement? Free trade agreement is a pact between two or more nations, reduce barriers to imports and export among them. So there are several barriers, tariff barriers, non-tariff barriers among different countries. So what happens in the free trade agreement is two countries two countries set terms with each other. Okay, so two countries set terms with each other to ease trade among them, so that they reduce barriers of imports and exports in each other, right? So what are the advantages of the free trade agreements? So there are pros and cons as well from the free trade agreement. So the advantages include increased economic growth. Of course, that way if a free trade agreements increasing the export potential of a country, that will also increase production, productivity and economic growth. And lower government spending due to the increased private sector participation. There will be a huge technology transfer also. If a foreign government uh, come to India with FDI, then they will bring technology also. So one of the advantage of free trade agreement is technology transfer. So what are the cons? So increased job outsourcing, poor working conditions, and degradation of natural resources. That leads to the degradation of natural resources and poor working conditions for laborers, and lack of social security and income security, health safety for them, and also increased job outsourcing because of the free trade agreements. Okay, so in this article it says that the upcoming free trade agreements with countries would boost exports from India, including those of chemical sector. In fact, India already in recent times India signed a free trade agreement with UAE and Australia. Okay, now we are in talks with UK, European Union, and Canada to sign a free trade agreement. So if the upcoming free trade agreements, if upcoming free trade agreements were signed, then that will give a boost to exports. Okay, that will give boost to exports, especially the chemicals. Okay, the chemical industry is benefiting from the two free trade agreements that we have already concluded. We discussed that we are already concluded free trade agreements with UAE and Australia. Now we are in proceeding with our negotiations with UK and European Union. Okay, so now we are in talks with UK, European Union, and Canada for talks. Okay, so these are all the important news articles given in the Hindu newspaper. So we have covered all important and all relevant news articles. Okay, so that's it. Thank you.